Welcome back to Christian Music Central. My name is Lucas Philip Howard, your host. Today I'm here with a very special guest, songwriter, guitarist, producer, Grammy nominated musician, Josiah Prince. Josiah, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much. It's great to be here, or whatever here is. It's we're states apart, but I am in people's ears and eyes right now, I guess. So that works.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. It really means a lot to me as a Disciple fan and musician myself.
That's awesome, man. Thank you.
Yep. Um, the first thing I would like to ask is, you guys just came off of Winter Jam, so
That's right.
I got the honor of seeing you guys the last show in Ypsilanti, Michigan, which was a
Oh,
great
great.
show, by the way.
That's a special one for sure.
Yeah. Um, I guess my question would be kind of just what's that like touring with multiple different bands in such a big tour like Winter Jam?
Yeah, it's such a different beast than our normal operation. So, if people don't know, the band Disciple tours pretty relentlessly year round, year over year. I've been in the band for 14 years, and the only time we've, slowed down at all for touring was during COVID, obviously. But apart from that, we pretty much play a ton of shows, and a lot of them are just kind of us headlining our own events and playing, for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and kind of having it all kind of self-contained on our end. And so, by contrast, doing a tour like Winter Jam just logistically is so different and kind of crazy because it's this massive, operation with hundreds of people in the crew and stage hands and catering crew and all the artists tour managers, all the artists merch people, and you're playing arenas, which is incredible. I mean, it's the best like adrenaline rush to play in front of so many people every night. So it's a much bigger crowd than our normal shows. But it's also we only get a short amount of time, and so it's kind of all this like build up throughout the day, and then it's like, okay, we've got this very short set to make an impression and hopefully do a good job and make some new fans. So, but it's great. I mean, we played it 3 years ago in 2023, and after that run, I would say almost every show we've played in the years since then, someone comes up and says, "Oh, I heard you guys for the first time at Winter Jam," and so it's a great thing for us to be able to get in front of a lot of new faces and hopefully make some new connections.
Awesome, awesome. And if I'm not mistaken, you guys just starting a tour as well?
Yeah, we kind of this is our first kind of jaunt out since Winter Jam. We took a few weeks off, um, and we are now on this West Coast kind of trek. And so right now I'm in Bozeman, Montana, on an off day sitting here, but we kind of have been working our way across the U.S. We're based out of Nashville, so it takes about a week to kind of play some shows and kind of work your way out this far. And yeah, we'll kind of be out here for several weeks and then make our way home.
Awesome, awesome. The next thing I'd like to ask, so I mentioned earlier that you're a Grammy nominated musician. Um, and I know you've been, like you said, you've been a disciple for 14 years. How
Yes,
does it
sir.
feel to find or to win a Grammy after all these years?
Yeah, we did. I will say
I
we
mean,
didn't win. Just to be clear, we
nominated.
did get
Sorry,
nominated, which
sorry.
is a huge win in and of itself. I just want to be clear. But I refer to that particular year of the Grammys as the year that Disciple lost fewer Grammys than Taylor Swift. So that's I think that's kind of what history will remember.
Right.
Um, no, that was crazy. I mean, that's something we never think about or expect to be even in the picture. And so when we found out, that we had that nomination, this was a little over a year ago now. Um, and it was just unbelievable. I mean, we can't, there's no way to really put words to it. We just, super honored and to be in that conversation and to be able to go out, obviously, just the experience of getting to go out there and be a part of a Grammy Awards ceremony is unbelievable. So it's never what we're aiming for. That didn't change us into a band that's now going to like be trying to aim for Grammy Awards or anything like that. It's we kind of considered it a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like, okay, we're gonna go out to LA and have a fun time and enjoy this ride because it's most likely, not probably something that won't happen again. If it does, awesome. But again, it's not something that we're now, trying for.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine how amazing that would feel to finally get the opportunity to go there. Um, and yeah, I guess the next thing I would ask is I've been seeing some stuff on your Instagram as well as your bandmates' Instagrams on possibly a new Disciple record. Is there anything you can share about that that wouldn't be giving out too much
Yeah, no,
information or what?
we'll break the news right here. We are writing a new song. No, I'm kidding. We're always writing new songs. Um, but yes, we don't stop. Kind of like touring, talking about how we just kind of continue the machine just kind of keeps churning. And same creatively, we released our deluxe edition of the Skeleton Psalms album last year, 2025, and by that
Actually got it
time,
on vinyl behind me.
hey, that's awesome. We love that. We love the way that vinyl turned out. By the time that released, we already had a good bit of new songs written. You just you kind of try to stay in the rhythm of creating. And what happens is we'll kind of hit a moment where everybody kind of starts getting the bug to write and to make new demos, make new music, and all of us write, and all of us kind of will come to the table with new song ideas. And so we've got a Google Drive folder right now with probably 30 demos, and some of those are just a riff or a verse and a chorus, but a decent amount of them are like fleshed out, song structures. And so we do this tour bus experience that we sell as a VIP option for our shows, where fans can come up and hang out on the bus, and we show them some of these new demos. And so we got like 5 or 6 that we've been showing that are actually kind of listenable, that we don't mind people hearing. So that's been fun to kind of get some early reactions, and that helps us too because it kind of gets us thinking like, oh, what does this song still need? What is this song still missing? So anyway, all that to say, after this West Coast tour, I think over the summer we'll be recording a good bit. And I think the goal would definitely be to have new songs out this calendar year, 2026. And so a lot of times it ends up being a matter of us getting songs ready and sent off to mix in time, and then our label, we're with Tooth and Nail Records, BEC, and so it's a big conversation with them too about, okay, when should we start rolling out singles, and what kind of release strategy are they wanting to do. So that's kind of where it's at.
Awesome. And then if you don't mind me asking, so I'm not super familiar with what a label actually does. So are they
Sure.
kind of the ones that are in, or I guess more of what exactly is the label doing
Yeah.
in this
It's
scenario?
different for everybody. Every label is different, and every artist's relationship with the label is different. For many decades, it looked very similar for everybody, but in today's landscape, you can kind of find situations that work the best for your band or your artistry, I think. And so, traditionally, a label would be the company that signs an artist because they see potential in the artist, and then they work on developing the artist and putting together a really good album with a really good marketing campaign and music videos, and then radio singles. That's kind of traditional label approach. And then of course the distribution side, which is getting the traditionally physical product in the stores. Nowadays, obviously, singles out to streaming playlists, getting a good kind of visual perception on DSPs, which is like Spotify and Apple, YouTube. So a label is kind of the company, and they're also paying for everything up front anyway. They kind of front the bill for the artists because most, especially younger, newer artists, can't afford to, hire a producer, book a studio, book a music video, pay for a radio promoter, pay for distribution. So the label covers all of that in hopes that the artists release will then kind of recoup is what they call it, make the money back and hopefully then some. So the label is a business, you know what I mean? And so again, for younger artists, they're ideally signing them, developing them, and helping them kind of find their identity. For a band like Disciple, who's been around for decades, our label relationship is way more low key, I would say, very casual, very like a lot of trust, because they know that we're a band of professionals who know how to make a good album and turn in a good product that they can then take and promote and market. And so it's very chill, and we love the people at Tooth and Nail, and they're very supportive. They're very hands off creatively. If we ask for their opinion on songs, they'll give it, but they're not going to come to us and say, oh, you guys need to write more songs like this, which again can happen in other situations. So it's great for us because we get to just kind of make the album that we want to make, and they'll take care of a lot of the practical side of it and then release, because we did do a couple of albums when I first joined that were Kickstarter, so crowdfunded, which was super fun and exciting, but also so much work to fulfill orders, to you know keep track of everything. And so we're spending in those situations, we were spending way more of our focus and energy on all the back end parts of releasing an album. And so being with the label now, I think that's what we enjoy, because it gives us more focus for just making the music and making the music good, hopefully.
Gotcha. Okay. That clears some of that up a lot, actually.
Good.
Um, the next thing I'm curious about, with you specifically, is I know you're a guitarist, obviously,
Guilty.
but you're also a producer at the Ranch, which
That's
is
right.
that your studio? Like, is that
It is.
the
Yeah, it's my
okay?
studio in Nashville. Yeah.
Gotcha. So yeah, I guess kind of how did you start getting into more of the like I don't know, did you start with guitar and then kind of move to producing, or was it kind of the other way around? Or I guess how did you more get started
Yeah.
as a musician?
Yep. So yes, I started on drums when I was 9, and then switched to guitar around 11 or 12 once I realized that I could um, actually perform a song with the guitar. Whereas as a drummer, I always felt like, oh, well, I've got to have somebody else, playing with me or playing along to a CD or something. So that's what really drew me to guitar originally. And I still kind of have that uh, mentality about the guitar. I don't really consider myself a um, I don't know, like exclusive guitar player. Guitar to me is like a tool for making a song or making a performance good. And so that's kind of how I approach it now. But I have played for most of my life at this point. And then production is just something that I've always written songs. And when I was in my last band, a band called Philmont, um, we would go into the studio. It always cost money to go into the studio and make demos of songs that we were writing. And I'd just be writing songs, and I would get really frustrated thinking, man, I wish I could just record my own demo of this song so I could just have it to listen to and workshop. And so that's when I got Pro Tools, which is a recording software, was just literally just to help make demos for my band. And didn't really think of it as a career option. But then it was, the more you're on tour, just the more time you're around other bands, and then starting to write songs with other bands, I would just naturally end up in these situations where would just do these co-write sessions. And then it's like, well, maybe someone should record this. And so I would, once I moved to Nashville, it was very, again, just organic to be like able to offer that to artists that I was writing with, or at least just get hired to make demos of songs. And it wasn't really until I'd been doing some production here and there in like 2017, 18, 19, and even kind of co-produced our 2019 album Love Letter Kill Shot. But it wasn't until COVID that I kind of had to look in the mirror and say, like, okay, do you think you can produce full time, and in lieu of being able to go on the road and play shows? And by the grace of God, I was able to drum up enough business to stay busy all through COVID, and work just on studio projects. And uh, that kind of solidified that for me. And so then when touring came back, it became a struggle just trying to figure out, okay, how do I balance these things now? How do I stay present as a producer and manage expectations for clients who are coming into the studio while also still being actively touring and present with Disciple. So I'm so blessed. I love both of those things so much. I love being in the studio. I love making songs with other people, and I love being on tour like I am right now. So I intend to keep doing both for as long as I can.
Awesome. I guess another question would be, someone like me, so I play guitar, a little bit of drums, and then I'm kind of starting to get my feet wet. That there it is.
Yeah. Feet,
My
feet
feet
dirty,
wet.
hands wet. Yep.
Yep, with production stuff. I
Great.
guess what would be your advice to someone like me,
Yeah.
trying to get into that kind of stuff?
So for me, so much of you have like the inspiration side of producing, of just like getting a vision, getting an idea, and then like chasing it in the session to try to make it, sound the way it sounds in your brain. But then you also need all the technical skills too, right? You need to understand how to use the software. You need to understand what the plugins do and all the kind of more tedious stuff. And for me, I was very lucky again to like have some close friends who were, kind of up and coming producers, and one friend in particular, Matt Arcaney, who is he co-produced the Horseshoes and Hand Grenades album and Oh God Save Us All album for Disciple, and he's the one who actually got me the opportunity to try out for Disciple on guitar. And but he was studying production, and we kind of came up together, and I would just watch him. And just being able to like watch someone else do it for hours and hours and hours, is a huge that was kind of the school for me. Again, I didn't even know that I was learning production at the time, or that I would end up doing it. I just was fascinated by it, and I wanted to just kind of soak it up. And so again, every time my band was in the studio with any producer, I would just watch and just keep my eyes locked on whatever they were doing and ask questions. And every producer I ever worked with was so gracious to just share exactly what they were doing and tell me all about it. Rob Hawkins, who produced Philmont's album, also produced the Disciple Horseshoes and Hand Grenades album. Incredible producer. And I would just study him when we were in the studio together. Aaron Sprinkle, who's a tooth and nail legend, has produced so many incredible rock albums. And we did our Long Live the Rebels album with him. And I, again, same thing, was just like asking him so many questions. And I would just be in there, even when I wasn't needed on a day of recording, I would go in anyway and just watch and sit there. And Travis Wyrick, who is recorded more Disciple albums than anybody. He's recorded, I think, 9 or 10 Disciple albums. Same thing. He has mentored me and would just show me all the tricks he was doing. And so by the time I was really starting to produce for other artists, I kind of had all these schools of thought from these other, established producers in my tool belt. And so anyway, the advice I would give is, if you are able to be mentored by anybody, or just intern at a studio or assist any kind of person who's doing audio engineering of any kind, it's going to be helpful. And a great substitute nowadays is YouTube, of course. So if you follow, if you're trying to produce rock stuff, I mean, Joey Sturgis and guys like that post tons of YouTube content, and it's just tips for how to use, EQ or compression, and then just again learning the ins and outs of the actual software is going to always be valuable, because you want to be fast. That's kind of the thing, especially if you're trying to produce for other for clients and for artists. The most impressive thing is to be able to take their vision and their idea and get a pretty good sounding version of it quickly, is going to be, one of your best strengths as a producer, I think, to capture that excitement quickly and then, finish it out. So anyway, all that to say, I think YouTube's a great resource nowadays, in lieu of being able to sit in on studio sessions in person. If anyone does lessons or consults or things like that, just again soaking up whatever you can from people who have done it for a long time.
All right. Thank you so much. That actually helps a lot. I'll try to see who I can find that would be of help
Yeah,
in that way.
just start following. I mean, the algorithms are so smart these days; they know what you're trying to look for. So if you just start following producers who make good content on Instagram, there's plenty of producers on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Especially YouTube is great because it's the long form. You can really get more deep dive understandings of how things work. But if you start just following some of those pages, subscribing to some of those creators, it's gonna give you more. You know what I mean? Your feed's
Hmm.
gonna get full of that stuff. And again, you gotta just consume that education as much as you can. Anyway, I'm rambling now.
Oh no, you're fine. My final question would be, I guess is it safe for me to assume you're a Christian, being in a Christian band?
Yeah, my dad was a pastor, so I was born saved.
Awesome.
I'm just
Okay.
kidding. That's that's a joke. That's that well, we get that question a lot in like Q&A sessions or VIP. People ask, "Oh, how long have you been, a Christian?" And we'll go down the line. I always go last so I can use that line, and it gets a laugh about half the time. So that's good
Okay.
enough for me.
Yep.
Um, but no, I did grow up. My dad was a pastor, and so yeah, grew up in church and was homeschooled, and just kind of got a very that kind of classic like 90s traditional Christian homeschool upbringing. But yeah, I've loved Jesus for a long time, and I've being a creator, I think um, just puts you in touch with that spiritual presence, and so I always try to be very intentional with that, and um, just understanding that's what's happening. When you get inspired, when you get an idea, and when you're chasing something, that's a spiritual endeavor, and that's we worship the ultimate creator, and so when we create something, that's us, channeling that creator spirit. And so I'm always just in awe of just God's, hand in that and the spirit and how that leads us. But yeah, and then of course, being a disciple, it's beautiful just being able to go on tour, and every night that we play shows, see people make decisions and have spiritual experiences and encounters with Jesus, and being able to hear people's stories. So again, just so blessed, and feel very fortunate to have that like kind of continual testimony happening in my life.
Awesome. Um, so I guess this might be a little personal, but if you
Go.
don't feel comfortable ask or answering it, that's totally fine. Um, so do you think being with Disciple, being on tour, that kind of stuff, I can imagine it's a pretty crazy kind of lifestyle, like being in different states all the time and that kind of stuff. Um, how do you think that's, I guess, affected your faith in,
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
you kind of touched on it a little bit,
Yeah, no,
but
it's 100%. I mean, it's all hand in hand to me. It's like, yeah, you sacrifice, especially, when you're 20 and touring, or 18, it's just like an adventure. You're just going out on a, pirate ship, just like into the open waters, and just like, see you later, mom and dad.
mhm.
Um, and it's super just fun and carefree. Even though it's like also extremely hard and stressful. But you're young, so it's just kind of like whatever. But then getting a little older and into adulthood, and uh, I think naturally humans, we want like a stable. It's in the modern world, especially. We just want we want some stability, right? You want to like have your house and have your family and your unit that's stable. And I do have that when I am home. I have a wife and kids, and a awesome house in Nashville that we love. So like that's awesome. But then this super disorienting thing is the other half of my life, going out on the road. Like you said, wake up and be like, what state is this again? Is the time zone the same? What is the show on time? What, all these disorienting factors creating instability. So for me, that's where like leaning and trusting and growing my faith comes really in handy, is just being able to rely on God to get me through those harder times when we're on the road. And also just the beauty of accountability. These guys are my best friends, and so we have a great culture and community here on the bus and in the Disciple crew. And so we all look out for each other, and when someone's down or someone's having a bad week, like, we're there to encourage and pick them up, and knowing that the same is going to come back to us. So it's again just very edifying, and about as good of a touring situation as you can imagine, because I do know
Mhm.
many stories and know many people who have kind of feel like they've gotten kind of chewed up and spit out from touring, because it can, if you're not in a situation like this, it can be very daunting, grueling, you just tough. And so it's definitely easy for it to get that way if the kind of right people and situations aren't in place. So again, just very grateful for the situation that I'm in.
All right. I think that pretty much wraps up our episode. Thank you so much for doing this. I seriously can't like thank you enough to even just be
Hey,
like,
absolutely.
yeah, even just be talking with you is I like am at a loss for words, honestly.
That's all right. No worries. I got enough words for both of us. And I love it because it's a great example of like, you don't know until you ask, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Um, and so I'm a big believer in that, and knocking on the doors to get those opportunities. That's my story as well. Is like just saying yes to things, knocking, asking people for opportunities, and just seeing what happens. The worst I can say is no. The worst I could have said is no or not responded. And but yet here we are.